It's crazy to me because obviously, and we're going to mix this whole conversation together with all of the controversy that's now kind of risen to the surface about the new Chelsea owner, Todd Boehly, wanting this US style all-star game.
Yeah.
You're starting to see these big American players come into the English side of football.
Yeah.
And there is some resistance to it, but the reality is it's happening. And at what point do people start understanding that with this comes change and sometimes it needs to be embraced?
Yeah, and I think it should be embraced. I think there's ideas that North American sports have which are really good and positive, and the way they promote the players in certain leagues like the NBA and the NFL is something worldwide all sports leagues should want, because that's how you make money. There's other things like where teams don't get relegated and stuff like that, which I don't think will ever be brought into European sports. But the All-Star game thing, we may as well jump right into it. Like,
Tell me how you feel, because you're an Englishman.
I love the idea. I love All-Star games.
Yeah, me too.
I love them. I love that players get more accolades. I love that players are recognized. I love that it grows the legacy of each player. However, I don't think it works in the English Premier League like it would in the NHL, MLB, and what's the other one? NFL, all that kind of stuff. But it's different too, because you don't in the Premier League you don't have a Western Conference and Eastern Conference and stuff like that. Like the Chelsea owner suggested a North versus South, and it's like, well, where's the line? Like, what about the teams in the Midlands, and stuff like that? Like, I just don't think it would work. And I think the schedule is already so condensed, and there's so many games that these teams have to play. It's nothing you could do in season.
That is okay, so I completely see both sides. And just quickly, I think, I was reading about it in Todd's rationale. I'm just going to call him Todd like we're best friends. MLB did their All-Star game this year, and he said that they made $200 million from a Monday and a Tuesday. So he says doing a North versus South in the Premier League could fund the pyramid very easily. And I think it could be well over $200 million if it's the Premier League for the first time ever. I was reading the comments on this tweet when it came out, and so many English fans are just so protective of the tradition and the culture and the long-standing rivalries that they have within the Premier League. And that part I understand, and that part I respect, because if you hate a team, which is very, that happens in football, and all of a sudden there's a player you don't like on your rival team, and now you see that player playing with one of the guys that you support on your team, you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's just such a different dynamic in the Premier League than it is in Major League Soccer that I think it'd be hard for fans to digest. But I do think that times are changing, and if you don't get with the times and embrace the change and maybe try and see like some type of positive in it, like, wow, this would be a cool thing to take my kid to. This would be a cool jersey to get. This would be a cool opportunity to see what it would be like to see this player play with this player. I also say that knowing that footballers' schedule is probably one of the craziest schedules in sports. And I think about the players, and I wonder if that would be enticing at all for them, or if they would just be like, this is annoying. Because in hockey, when the All-Star break comes, a lot of these athletes who aren't a part of that All-Star break just dip and go to vacation, which I don't blame them.
Yeah, a lot of people just take the fine.
Yeah.
And I think I get it too.
I do too.
Somebody was put out a video on the 90th minute page just talking about this and just asking for thoughts. And I put what I just said in a comment. Just said, I just don't know when they would find time to do it. And somebody commented, do it in January. I was like, okay, well, I think you run into a couple of obstacles if you do it in January. One, it's the transfer window. So what if a player gets transferred to the middle of nowhere? I don't know, Italy or something like that, for example. Two, the reason January's schedule is so much lighter is because, one, the FA Cup starts. And two, is because December's schedule is so heavy that they have to relieve them a little bit. The only other thing I saw as a comment where I can't remember who said it, but which could maybe work would be do it the same weekend as the Community Shield, which is the league versus the cup winners. And you do it on that weekend at Wembley in London, and maybe that's a weekend you could do it, but
then it's it feels like it's being forced. And when stuff is forced and shoved down people's throats, they immediately resist because they're like, if it doesn't make sense, don't fix it if it isn't broken.
That's the thing. I don't think England needs this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a missing ingredient. And I understand it from a financial perspective and stuff, but like from a player's perspective, which is really what should matter the most, is it just, I agree. There's not room for it. And we're just going to force players to not even want to come to the Premier League anymore if this continues to happen. And these other things that have been Americanized, if you want to word it, is that like the Premier League now is a Hall of Fame, which I think was very necessary. My dad has the argument that there should be a British football Hall of Fame rather than a Premier League, because the Premier League is only 30 years, right? Well, British football is 100 years. True. There's a lot of players who deserve to be in that, and which is fair. Like you said, like it's a very traditional country, and I don't know. I'm on the fence of it. I love the idea. I love saying like, oh, Erling Haaland has been an all-star for 9 years in a row and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I don't think the players care. I just don't think they really care. Honestly,
and I think I'm on the exact same position as you, Liam. I'm like, if it happened, would I watch and would I be excited? Yes. But if it doesn't happen, would I cry about it and care? No. So I'm just so neutral to it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think about the players. A lot of these guys in sports across just the platform of sports don't care about All-Star break or these All-Star games. So what's one more thing to add for them when they could probably spend a day with their family or doing rest and recovery? Just where they know it's because it's a big dollar sign, it's probably a little frustrating for them. But then you have like Lukaku and Ferdinand who are all for it. They're supporting it.
Rio Ferdinand.
Rio Ferdinand. Yeah, I hope I got that right. Hold on.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was making teams in my head because I kept seeing all these teams that were like, oh, the North team would just be all United, City and Liverpool, and South would just be like Arsenal, Chelsea, and it's like you would have to kind of figure that out, I think, to make sure everyone's involved.
Yeah, Ferdinand supported it, which to me was interesting because I'm like, maybe there are some players from the past who are like, oh, I wish I had something like that when I was a footballer. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're speculating, but I just, I don't know. Again, it'd be cool, but I'm not crying about it if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's my stance too.